Onwards. I'm pretty sure there are a few areas on both Brio and Norian that have opened up concerning what we've grabbed so far, and I'm also pretty sure the next major upgrade is going to be on Brio, but we may as well hit Norian first, who knows? He might grab something that's going to be at least a little bit helpful later on. I certainly wouldn't mind gaining an energy tank, even if it feels like we have more health than I usually would for this stage of a Metroid game. I know I keep saying it, but I'm definitely getting Star Wars vibes from this game. Does that make Phazon the dark side? Does Dark Samus representing an aspect of the dark side of the Force mean something? Because, sorry, I think I preferred the way Dark Samus was portrayed in Metroid Prime 2. An angry, vengeful ghost that refused to leave us alone and kept working to get stronger just for the sake of making sure we die. But no, for some reason they had to put Dark Samus into an overall villain role and have her in control of things for some absurd reason. It's just one of the many things that doesn't feel like it fits based on the previous games. Again, this is not itself a terrible game. It does a number of things extremely well. And while I do complain about the control scheme, it did work out very well on the system it was initially released on. Hell, Metroid Prime 3 was one of the major reasons I bought a Nintendo Wii, and I didn't regret it since I had fun with the game and the system while I had it. Despite the sheer number of complaints I've been saying over the course of this LP, I do consider this a damn fun experience. And there's a reason I'm looking forward to Metroid Prime 4 despite all the delays it's gone through. It's just in that awkward space where I remembered it being even better, and my expectations after completing Metroid Prime 2 and being so annoyed by that were pretty high. Always annoying when you hype yourself up for something amazing and feel guilty for not being fully on board something good. The main Federation fleet might be gone until the next major story beat, but Norian is still a decent reminder that they aren't completely gone from the sector, even if they're pretty inactive. As if the pretty constant messages from the female Aurora unit weren't a big enough sign that they won't leave us alone. Place your bets. Will we hear from her or the male one before we're done with this clip? On the one hand, I doubt I'm gonna be in a hurry to get to the next objective point and just do some exploring for the sake of it for as long as we can get away with doing that. And this game has been rather obnoxious with giving us hints compared to other Metroids we've gone through. On the other hand, it's not like the male Aurora was all that specific when he said what we needed to go up that particular obstacle was on another world. So maybe the game is actually letting us explore like the other Metroid titles have done. Granted, the iffy level design is still the same, so it's not going to be an extensive exploration, even if that's the case. But hey, we're 17 clips in, I'll take what I can get. And let's give this game the credit that it's due. Unlike the other two Metroid Primes, I have not felt tempted to fast forward. At least, not outside of that one, jetpack bullshittery. It may not be as compelling a game when I'm controlling it, but it's easier for me to go clip by clip and comment on it after the fact.
Section of the facility. The area beyond this door is overrun with spent Phazon from the initial pirate invasion.
Buddy, our body is overrun with Phazon right now. It just hasn't been coming across as the dangerous substance it felt like in the previous two games. So that you excuse me if being told the next area is a Phazon hazard isn't a deterrent for us. Don't worry though, you're free to keep guarding the door. No need to follow the inquisitive bounty hunter into a death zone. Oh, come on. That last one should have gone through. Again, less troublesome on the original system, but still a bit of a pain in the ass for a mouse and keyboard layout. And I very much don't envy whoever is trying to make this game work on a more traditional control scheme like on the Switch. Okay, so he just has less to say after we unlock the door and doesn't comment on the fact that we just opened up a zone that the engineers and security are in no hurry to deal with. Well, that's a slightly awkward to reach a missile expansion here. Again, nowhere near as absurd to reach as some of the upgrades in the other Metroids have been, 2D and otherwise. Still, I can't say it's an outright gimme. As a side note, is it just me, or are we taking less damage from the electrified floors than we did back when the pirates were attacking this planet? I can't find it in me to remember that far back, and I'm not gonna check the footage. That took less effort than I was expecting, and it's not like my expectations were high. I think I had more trouble getting the door open than grabbing that supposedly hard-to-reach item. It kind of feels insulting, and this is coming from a guy who never 100%ed any of the Metroid games I've played before this point. I don't know for sure, but if I get pretty close to 100% item gathering in this game, I would not be surprised. The puzzle solving still feels like it's asking for the same level of thought we needed at the start of the game. There's been no increase in difficulty in that line as far as I can tell, hence why it feels insulting. Again, we're 17 clips in. Why does it feel like the game's still treating us with kid gloves when we're far enough in to have gotten used to the game's quirks? Definitely not feeling all that endangered by the phazon creatures in here, though I suppose I can see why the average Federation trooper would be worried. Maybe I'm just too used to extremely hostile environments in this series. Wait, we've got one of those terminals already scanned when we've never been in this room before? How the hell does that work? Ah, so only 4% of Brio was habitable. I'm sorry, but that doesn't excuse the fact that Brio feels pretty anemic in terms of locations we've gone through in the Metroid games. Hell, I dare say that a single zone in any of the 2D games was more extensive than Brio was in this one. So, the Federation just set up shop in Chozo Ruins and didn't bother leaving any real Federation defenses there, just relying on the Chozo defenses? Considering the events of Zero Mission and the first Metroid Prime, they have to know that the pirates might have an interest in Chozo spots. I'm not asking for the Federation to be able to beat the pirates off so we don't have to deal with the enemy on this or that planet. I'm saying if the game designers wanted to go for an epic war-style thing, to break up the usual Metroid storytelling formula and make this seem more epic, they could have had some signs of the Federation trying to deal with things on Brio and Elysia, instead of being essentially non-existent for the middle section of the game. Okay, so we've got some phazon-generated hoppers. Nothing really intimidating, but I suppose it might be fun to wipe the bastards out. Come to think of it, I'm pretty sure this was the generator that Rundus dealt with back when the pirates were attacking. It kind of makes me wish that we saw more of him before he had to die, but again, what little we did see of him ensured he'd be the most well-loved member of the 3 sacrificed hunters of this game. Well, they certainly don't seem to hold up well to plasma fire. And since there's no way to get back here without the plasma gun from Gore, I can't really say that these things are an increase in difficulty from the monsters we've run into so far in the game. Considering how linear this game is, I was expecting more of a difficulty curve. Again, that's probably more of a me problem. My expectations are what's given me a bad mood, not the actual skill of the game designer. Still, the combination of this being the third entry of a trilogy, the clear sources of inspiration for some of the action sequences, and the fact that this was one of the biggest hits on its console really ups those expectations. This is not a Star Fox Adventures level of disappointing. That was a failure on every level, from the new stuff introduced to the little nods to older material. Whereas this game has a lot of stuff that fundamentally could have been good, but doesn't really fit in the Metroid Prime series. Some genuinely good stuff that fits into the franchise in a whole, and still has some of the foundational stuff that made Metroid Prime 1 and 2 work. Nintendo has done far worse than this, both before and after this game's release, and it is never going to not be a strange place to be when something isn't outright terrible but isn't something you can call great. I know a good number of people don't like the fact that I tend to complain a lot about the games I play, but I'm the sort of guy who looks with a critical eye even towards the things that I enjoy a lot. In my opinion, if you can't keep enjoying something when you acknowledge its faults, can you really say that you enjoyed it? Or were you just obligated to go through it and convinced yourself you liked it as a coping mechanism? I can honestly say, aside from some truly great standout moments, I did not like Metroid Prime 2 as a whole. But I have been enjoying Metroid Prime 3. Even if this game feels like it doesn't really belong in the Metroid Prime continuity due to too many changes to the stuff established before this game, and some of the various stylistic decisions, like the ship, even if I feel it's kind of insultingly easy in some ways, even if I get annoyed by the control scheme, it is still an enjoyable game. They got enough right that I didn't really feel like I was going through a chore or an obligation when I was actually going through with recording this. It's actually pretty funny that Metroid Prime 2 feels like it fits pretty smoothly with Metroid Prime 1 from a lore standpoint, and fits in the Metroid continuity like a glove, but it is just such a chore to get through that I have to force myself to go through it, even if I enjoy some very select, scattered moments of it. But this game, which makes me groan at pretty much a constant rate, is an absolute blast to go through, even as I continually go, "Are you kidding me?" It's just kind of weird. Anyway, now to talk about that bit of lore we just read here. Excuse me for finding it a bit odd that this place is supposed to be a first line of defense for any external threats to the Federation, and after the attack earlier in the game, they didn't even leave a token fleet nearby. Hell, the fleet just fucked off entirely. And that's after we supposedly won the battle and the Federation still has people on the ground here. Let's put it this way. In World War II, the Americans didn't stop using Pearl Harbor just because they were hit there. They still owned that island and they kept using it. But they got their asses kicked in the Philippines and vowed to return, unable to use any facilities there until the islands were liberated later on in the war. The Admiral in this game won the battle for Norien, and then vowed to return after leaving, just sticking some token troops to repair the facilities, and not actually using this planet in any strategic or tactical way, after undoubtedly beating the pirates back as our opening of the story. Is my confusion here understandable, or am I missing something here? Well, I certainly didn't miss that missile expansion. Yeah, I think at this point it's a good idea to pack it in and head back to Brio. Norian's given us all it's going to for the moment. We need to again get a missile that can shoot multiple targets before we can get to the small unexplored corner, which I'm pretty sure we'll find as we keep working on the Elysia part of the story, since It looked like there were a few of those kinds of locks there. And look at that, not a single message from the Aurora unit in this clip. It's a miracle. Yeah, looks like the landing zone to the right is closest to where we are right now. It's a good thing I don't give a damn about wasting fuel on the ship. Though it's probably not a good thing that I don't give a damn about the ship as a whole, considering how often we have to use it in this game. Hell, the ship is due for an upgrade or two before we make some more progress on Alicia's story, and I am not in any way eager to find out what that upgrade is. I'm just sitting here, wishing that this game took place on only one planet, and the game didn't do the whole half-assed ship antics when they clearly felt that the motion controls are the biggest draw for this entry of the franchise.
Data received.
Again, this game oddly seems to love showing the ship land and take off. Kinda makes me feel like Samus should have packed a lightsaber or something. Just how good are Samus' sword skills anyway? I'm sure she's picked up some tricks whenever she goes to Super Smash Bros.